Hello, this is Legends podcast. Today, with our producer Veselin Vълчев, we are once again able to make one of our Real America episodes, and we are honored to have on our show Mr. Adam Solis, New York Young Republican Club, Bronx Caucus. Welcome to our podcast, Adam. Nice to see you again.
How are you? How are you, George? It's an honor to be here, and I'm excited to speak with you guys about what's happening in the geopolitical world, and I'm excited to share our perspectives.
We're fine, thank you very much. And okay, let's go. Who is Adam Solis and why politics?
That's a great question. Adam Solis is a young man that grew up in the Bronx, New York. He understood that there wasn't really any resources available to him, and he didn't really appreciate the way his local community was headed and the direction that they were headed in. Once I understood that a lot of the situations in plight had to do to the lack of leadership in our local government, I understood that it was something that I needed to do, if not in the moment, in the future, to help curtail those efforts. Fast forward to 2020, I became a member of the New York Young Republican Club. And then you can fast forward, I guess, last year even, where I was able to have the opportunity and the honor to introduce the 47th President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump. And ever since 2020, I've been highly involved in the New York political scene, consulting many clients and giving opportunities for the community and the constituents to be able to have a voice and a means of communication with individuals that, or organizations that normally wouldn't really speak to them. And I've had the opportunity to facilitate some of those relationships, and I look forward to doing it so globally. Why politics? That's a great question. Well, I've always understood that there's been a divide between the Republican Party and certain urban cities. You know, we all know that many urban cities in America are, you know, entrenched with the Democratic Party. They're overrun. They obviously have huge corruption inside the cities, and it's not by mistake. It's all by design. And President Trump had the incredible opportunity of really putting a highlighter on these individuals and showing us that these individuals that were plagued with corruption most likely came from Democratic cities. And I did a little bit of research, and I started to look at the difference between a Democrat and a Republican. And lo and behold, we find out that in 1854 in Ripon, the Democratic Party was started in a small school. And it was specifically so that it could combat slavery, right? So slavery, we know, is bad, and there's been many civil rights and lots of different changes in the United States with regards to such a thing. But I love the fact that the Republican Party was the first political organization to go against it, and essentially they won, right? Because today, you know, it's outlawed. It's something that we don't practice in America. Unfortunately, there are countries in the world right now that do practice slavery and indentured servitude. There are many European countries. There are many Middle Eastern countries. And of course, you have your Asian communities and Asian countries that do the same. And it's so unfortunate. But the fact that America has been able to develop past such a primitive function in their society just goes to show you how well the work of the gentlemen in 1854, how well their work did. Because now, not only do we have a party that's interested in keeping Americans safe, but we have a party now that's interested in keeping the world safe. So who would have known, right? The Republican Party started in 1854, is now the leading force in saving the entire planet. Yeah. And I think that's pretty incredible. And to be able to be part of that, I'm just honored to be a piece of it.
Basically, the polls have shifted. Okay, but as you know, and seeing from all the media activity these days and everything that the Doge department is constantly finding out and making public, you already know, we always knew that, but there's already hard proof that the American government, the Democratic one, through the years have created a democratic bureaucracy, to be correct, through the years created international network of NGOs and media who are pushing one narrative and one narrative only. After the rallies, the New York rallies that we are going to speak about in a minute, and everything I read, those type of media, not only Bulgarian ones, for which ironically you are paying, but European outlets, American outlets. I cannot skip the next question, which is, what is a young black man doing on a Nazi rally of a fascist and racist party? Please tell me.
Well, that's a great question, George, because I woke
I
up
don't
this
know
morning.
if it is.
Yeah, it's a great question. I woke up this morning, and for some reason, when I look at CNN or MSNBC, they have this algorithm that tells me, hey, by the way, even though you're black, you're actually a Nazi. Even though you're black, you're actually a bigot. Even though you're black, you're actually a
racist, or say, whatever it is. Yeah.
But I love the question because it speaks to something that I personally believe is not spoken about enough. And besides the fact that young black men were the creators of the Republican Party, there has been this incredible shift in politics where young black men believe that they should align with the party of the Democrats, when the Democrats were created by significant individuals who supported the KKK, who supported racism, who supported the exact opposition of our existence. And I find it so ironic because, the media outlets, especially legacy media, they love to say, people are racist and they're fascists and they're Nazis, but I don't see any of the Democratic Party, reporting on how the Democrats, when they were first created, wanted to fight for slavery and to keep it going in the United States of America. It's very sad, but I'm honored. I'm honored with the monikers that you provided me, right? I love to be a racist. And what type of racist do I love to be? I love to be the type of racist that's blind. If I'm going to be a racist in the eyes of the Democratic Party, I'm a blind racist. I don't see color. I don't see class. I don't see any socio-economic divides or demographics that we hold. The only thing that I see are the actions and the words of our leadership in this country. And if we go by that alone, then we will see where exactly we deserve to be represented and who it is that needs to represent us. I'm fortunate enough to be one of those representatives of New York and in the Bronx, and I'm honored to do so. Not only am I black, but my family comes from Puerto Rico, and my family comes from the Dominican Republic as well. So I have the opportunity to not only communicate with so many different cultures, but I get to cross cultures for the simple fact that I did grow up in America as a black man, right? It was a black man's experience. That's what I experienced. And there were many different moments in my life where prejudice was apparent and obvious, but I can honestly say I have yet to come across anyone that is avidly racist against me, ever. It's not has ever happened to me. I understand there have been people that have experienced it. I understand that it's happened in the past, but that is not a current issue in America for black men. The current issue in America for black men are things like access to resources, access to higher levels of education, opportunities for them to contribute in their community where they can actually make a difference. These are the significant things that I believe the black man is facing, or any American is facing right now in America. And I love the fact that the left, or the Democrats as they say, are focused on a racial divide, racial heartstrings and racial monikers that they like to use, while the Republican Party is hard at work doing what the American people need them to do. I'll go back and circle around to how you mentioned DOGE, right? The Department of Government Efficiency. I love the name, and I do believe it's necessary because from what I understand, even Bulgaria has suffered at the hands of USAID, one of the organizations that DOGE just finished dismantling single-handedly, right? And from what I understand, USAID has been using funding to even fund propaganda in Bulgaria. And I find it so unfortunate that there are, organizations in America that are getting millions of taxpayer dollars so that we can fund propaganda campaigns against the natural, traditional citizens of a beautiful country like Bulgaria. It's unnecessary. There should have never been any use cases for those type of funds. And I'm glad that you have a perspective along with me, that we understand how horrible the democratic machine has become and why it's necessary to dismantle it now.
Apart from this type of media hurting the Bulgarian national interests, what it is doing is basically, from especially after January the 20th, but even before the elections last year, when they were predicting a swiping victory for Kamala, you know, the Hurricane Kamala, there were headlines here that we are just laughing our asses off every time we see them, you know, the Hurricane Kamala. I don't know what type of hurricane that is, but you are paying for this, and basically up until the day, you, the American taxpayers, are paying for a network of media outlets who never said a single positive word about the Republican Party or the president or the government or the Senate majority or the Congress majority or whatever. Never a single word. Of course, you know, this type of media, you can always see, you know, those great-looking marketing slogans, the independent journalists, the quality journalists, all points of views, you know, professional media, the media that's, this is how a modern and independent media should look. And yet, you cannot find a single word about the bigger half of the American politics. A single positive word, I'm telling you. So, I don't know why, up until the day, you continue to pay for a network of media who are constantly, every day, insulting the American president, the American government. You know, if you don't know, I'll tell you, your whole government is formed by racists and alcoholics and abusers and, you know, whatever. So, but anyway, it's a long subject and maybe we'll leave it for some other time. Let's get back to 2024. At the beginning of last year, the situation looked kind of hopeless, you know. Trump was stuck in a courtroom with Alvin Bragg and Juan Merchan, you know, those incredible people jumping on him. And he looked kind of cornered. And then Gavin Wax, you, and everyone came with the idea for the Bronx rally. Honestly, for me, the first time I saw the media announcement for the Bronx rally, I was like, wait, what? In New York? Trump? Live? Really? And then I saw it. And then I thought, something's happening here. And there comes the Madison Square Garden, the Madison Square Garden one, and there was okay, they're going to win definitely. What happened in New York last year? Nobody was expecting that. Nobody was expecting that.
Well, to give you a little bit of backstory about that, George, it actually happened in 2023. So in 2023, we had the New York Young Republican Gala where Donald Trump, our president, Donald J. Trump, was attended. He graced us with his presence that day. And I threw out an idea. You know, we were talking about how we can turn New York red. And I told Gavin and I told Jude Some Fun that, you know, we need to show the world how much the Bronx supports Donald Trump. Everybody looked at me like I was, you know, why? Why is that so important? And I said, well, at the end of the day, the Bronx is one of the most forgotten boroughs in New York and probably the world. But the Bronx is where Donald Trump's father is from. The Bronx is where some of the most greatest individuals in history were born, went to school, and created their families. And not only does President Donald Trump have roots in the Bronx, but he still has a huge following and a huge support base in the Bronx. And I said it would be great if we gave them an opportunity to show their support, and that's what happened.
I was really, really surprised, of course, in the best possible way to see that, but there was more about the organization. What was actually Trump thinking coming to New York? It looked a little bit risky back in the days, no?
Well, absolutely. You know, we're talking about a time that preceded, unfortunately, Butler. You know, and all the people affected there. May they rest in peace and God bless them. But it was preceding that time, and a lot of people were concerned with the safety because of the climate in the community. But I told, the same way I spoke to Secret Service that day, you know, they were very concerned, as they should be. I said, at the end of the day, Trump is home. He's not in another state. He's not doing a rally where he needs, support from individuals from all across the world. No, he is home. He's in his hometown. He's in his home city, his home borough. And the last thing that Trump is going to find in the Bronx is anyone that opposes his efforts, because everyone in the Bronx is highly intelligent, and they do understand that the machine that Donald Trump is currently dismantling in this present moment has been created by the Democrats, and they are excited to finally have someone that was willing to fight for their rights, fight for the opportunities that they deserve, and ultimately better their community. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing right now. You know, he's unleashed ICE into the Bronx and many major cities in America. They've been picking up lots of migrants, a lot of dangerous individuals, and the number one people that were suffering due to this migrant crisis were the Bronxites, the individuals who lived in the Bronx for the past 20, 30 years. And when these migrants were being dumped into New York, they weren't being sent to the Hamptons. They were being sent to the Bronx.
Pretty sure they're not, yeah.
Exactly. So the number one people that were being affected by this migrant crisis were the Bronx. And like we all like to say here in the Republican Party, promises given and promises kept. Donald Trump promised a safe New York. He promised us a safe environment, a safe city. And within days after, him coming into office, we now have a safer New York City and a safer Bronx, and we should all be much more grateful for him for it.
Do you feel represented now by this government
doing
what it does since January the 20th? Do you, a young black man from a blue city, feel represented by this government?
Absolutely. Not only do I feel represented, George, I feel like I actually finally have a voice. There has yet to be one candidate in the Bronx, or New York rather, that has ever been interested in protecting local constituents. And when I say protecting, I mean caring about their quality of life and the resources that are available to them. As we see the Democrats do for the past 50 years, they always come out with these opportunities and these different services that benefit the Bronx. But it's always a crutch. They're always providing the Bronxites a crutch. They're always providing the Bronx situations where they're going to essentially have to be dependent on the very government that they're supposed to be independent from.
Yep.
And once we saw that Donald Trump was in office fighting to make America great again, we understood that not only was he talking about specific parts of America, he's talking about all of America. And I would challenge any of the Democrats to go back and check all the cities that Donald Trump has ever done a rally in, and check to see what their economy and their public safety looks like. And I can promise you that every single place that Donald Trump has done a rally, there has been a significant increase of public safety and a great outpouring of support from all the constituents. Because the same way Donald Trump did rallies in red states, in red cities, and in red towns, he was also confident and brave enough to do a rally in the Bronx, a blue state, in a blue city, in a blue borough.
Yep.
And he still got the same amount of fanfare as he would have in a red state, which just goes to show you that there might be some discrepancies in the local voting records.
And then comes Madison Square Garden. Once again, I see the media announcements, and I was like, wait, what? Oh, this is big. Is it happening?
Absolutely.
Aren't there going to be, tens of thousands of crazy people are there, the blue-haired ones? But there were none, and basically the lines for entering the rally were 3 blocks away from MSG. And I was like, once again, I was like, wow. But why I'm bringing up this rally? You are the perfect man to be asked the following question. were you, young black man with Puerto Rican roots, offended by Tony Hinchcliffe?
Absolutely not. So what a lot of people
I'll tell you why I'm asking in a minute, and then you'll laugh even more. But just please tell me first.
Well, I was absolutely not offended. Actually, I understand what the media truly is. See, a lot of people think that the media is a tool to make them feel good. The media is not there. The media was never created to make anyone feel good. This is not a feel-good business. This is a truth business. This is a fact-based business. And when I understood that Tony, a comedian, made that comment, I immediately understood that he was bringing awareness to a huge problem that Puerto Rico is having right now. From what I understand, the last calculations that I put, Puerto Rico has shut down 11 garbage dumps in Puerto Rico, meaning Puerto Ricans had 11 more places that their garbage was being shipped to so that it could stay outside of their municipal and environments. Puerto Rico decided to shut down 11 of them. Where do you think that garbage goes? That garbage stays in the city. These people are going to live in less than optimal conditions in their communities because the leadership in Puerto Rico at that time that decided to make these decisions were not thinking about the best interest of their community. I think he did us an honor because no one cares.
He raised the topic. By the joke, through the joke, he actually, now people like you are able to tell the context, because everyone was like, wait, what? Why is he offending Puerto Rico? But there is a context to the joke.
That's right. And you know what I found even more sad, George? That there hasn't been one Puerto Rican man that's decided, or woman, that's decided to go on national TV and mention this issue. I find it very interesting. Meanwhile, it took a man to go to Madison Square Garden to make a joke so that people can get enraged. I think they should have been enraged when the dumps were closed.
But it was a joke. He's a roaster, because I'll tell you why I'm asking. First of all, the media outlets, you know which ones? There was lines like, oh, Trump is definitely losing the elections now after the huge screw-up of Tony Hinchcliffe. This will definitely lost the Latino vote for him. He is now totally fucked. And there was the headlines. Then I go to a TV studio, and I'm waiting for my interview. And the host is reading some announcements, and some short news from the day until the interview starts. And he said, oh, Trump is obviously going to lose the elections because he will definitely lose the Latino vote because of the screw-up from Tony Hinchcliffe. And then they play advertisements. And I turned back to him and said, why is that a screw-up? He's a comedian. What are you saying? He said, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? What screw-up? He's a comedian. They were trying to turn everything against you, even a joke from a professional comedian. And obviously it didn't work. And you are not offended.
Absolutely not. If anything, I thank Tony for giving awareness to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a beautiful space. It's a beautiful country. I love my Puerto Rican heritage. My grandmother, she's 98 years old. She comes from Puerto Rico.
God bless her.
So, thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for my Puerto Rican heritage, and I'm glad that there was an American that was brave enough to give some awareness to our beautiful island.
Back to the Bronx. One of your most famous, Bronx, people with origins from Bronx. One of your most famous former neighbors is Professor Thomas Sowell. And through the many interviews that I have listened with him, he was always telling how back in the days when he was your age or even younger, when he was a student, of course, he was not rich or he cannot afford to buy a car and everything, but he was walking back home from the city center to the Bronx, and he said, I had no issues walking back home in the 60s. And then you got the social security is going up and up and up. The municipal housing, all the social programs and everything. And now he said, don't look at me, look at the data. What has this left type of policies done to the community. How many families are now with one parent? How many children are raised by one parent? You can see the levels of unemployment, of people with low education, because it's easy to get a divorce, because on the next day the mother will apply for social security and she will get some benefits or some support, some help, some small room to live with her child. It's way easier for people to separate. They are more tempted just to break up because of some everyday small argument. And he's saying basically the left politics destroyed our communities, and he is constantly proving it with data. This is not an opinion. This is not biased in any way. He says, just look at the data. What happened in the Bronx, and are you an optimist for the future?
Well, absolutely. I'm incredibly optimistic with the future of the Bronx. As I've said on many different appearances that I've had, I have plans for the Bronx. I intend to turn the Bronx into Silicon Bronx, right? I want to use the biggest and brightest minds of the Bronx, and I want to create a technological epicenter in New York, right here in the Bronx. And I want to be able to do so with the young people that are currently here that have aspirations of changing not only their situation, but the situation of their community. And I appreciate you bringing up Mr. Sowell, because there have been many studies, including the study that Mr. Sowell mentioned, but there's always, there are other organizations that have done similar studies. I'm not sure if you have heard of them, but Numbers USA is an incredible organization that speaks about how immigration and illegal immigration has plighted and destroyed inner city communities, or matter of fact, all communities in America. And they've gone down to the data, to the specifics and the statistical data that shows every single time there is an open border situation, every single time there is an influx of illegal immigration in our communities, there has to be resources allocated to support them, and then there has to be infrastructure that is created to support them. Now, instead of supporting these individuals, we could have closed our borders, utilized those resources to actually help Americans, utilize those resources to house Americans. And I do understand that there is an incredible issue right now when it comes to fatherlessness in America. I understand it's one of the most important factors in our country. And there are many steps right now being made so that we can start supporting families to stay together. Yep. And I look forward to sharing with them in the future. But when we talk about how resources are allocated, all of those resources could have been given to these inner city communities and changed the entire outcome for generations to come. But due to the fact that there was a lack of leadership at the Democratic side, which was the side that was in control of these cities, we did not get that opportunity. And we essentially wasted time. And now we're in 2025. We no longer have opportunities to waste. We no longer have any more time to waste. As you can see, our President Donald J. Trump, not only is keeping his promises, but he's going full-fledged American. America first, American everything. So I love the fact that we have someone that is interested in defending not only the nuclear family, American values, all demographics, all communities, from urban communities to rural communities. But we actually have someone that is willing to defend our constitutional rights and the things that have created this incredible country that we're in right now.
Due to the specifics of the American election system, basically living in a blue city was, especially in New York, was looking kind of hopeless for the Republicans. Let's say 5 or 6 years ago, I was listening to this very well spoken, obviously extremely well educated professor, I think on Rogan, who was talking about the flaws and the problems with the current election system. And he was saying, look, let's take a look at New York. If you live in the district from which AOC gets elected, she gets like 85% of the votes. And if you are a Republican, basically, you have no chance. And immediately after the elections, your ballot goes in the dumpster, and that's it. It's hopeless. Is it? Is it hopeless? Being a Republican in New York now?
Absolutely not. That's a great question, because being a Republican in New York gives you sort of like a badge of honor. I don't know if you know, but Donald Trump right now is receiving a whole lot of fanfare for a pin that he was wearing during the confirmation of one of our newest leaders. And it's a pin that was given to me by David Rem. He's a lifelong friend of the president, and we share that in common. And I'm grateful for the pin that David Rem provided me that shows our support. But not only do I wear my MAGA hat, everywhere that I go in New York City, I wear my MAGA hat, I wear my pin, I wear everything that shows that I'm a patriotic American, because in America, we've finally arrived in a space and in a place where you're not judged by the color of your skin. You're not judged by where you're from, your religion, your creed, socioeconomic class. You're not judged by any of those things. You are now judged by the character and the merit that you possess. Now, the fact that now Republicans have an opportunity to express themselves and wear the different things and the support material and like things like the MAGA hat that I so proudly wear shows that the world not only is evolving, but everyone is starting to understand. The same way that the Democrats had 4 years to espouse hatred and division and all these different things that did not contribute to the human experience, now we have a chance. Now it's our turn to show how much we love this country, how much we support our president, and how vital it is that we remain patriotic every single day. Because if it wasn't for individuals like our United States military, our first responders, if it wasn't for these people that sacrifice their lives every single day, we would not have a free country. And I just love the fact that I grew up in America, grew up in the Bronx, and I'm now living in a reality where it is acceptable to express myself however I want, especially in a patriotic fashion. And I'm honored. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to speak with you about this topic, right? If you look back 100 years, who would have thought this type of conversation would have been happening, right?
Yeah.
You know, a Bronx young man with a Bulgarian powerhouse like yourself, George. This is unprecedented, and I'm just honored to be able to contribute. And I do rock my MAGA hat every single day wherever I go, and I do it proudly, because one thing we've noticed about the Democratic Party is that they don't know how to back up their words, and I do. So I'm very proud to be who I am.
They don't know how to back up their words, but they are very good in packing the whole product that they're trying to sell. I don't know what the product is anymore. I don't know what the modern left is fighting for, because once upon a time they were fighting for the little man, the worker, the blue collar, and now
supposedly,
yeah, supposedly, and now they are just represented by tens of billionaires, and the blue collar and the little man and the workers are voting for you guys because you are the ones who can actually keep their jobs first from the illegals and then bring them their jobs back to America through the international economical policies that Trump is trying to implement now. So I really don't know what they're fighting for anymore. But anyway, leave them alone. They're very good in the propaganda. They're very good in the propaganda. And currently, they're trying to convince the world that America is in a constitutional crisis, that Trump is dismantling democracy, that basically everything the government is trying to do is unlawful, and it will be ruled against in courts. So do you feel anyhow or anyway threatened by what's happening in DC in the last 20 days? And where is this coming from? Threat to democracy, dismantling democracy, going against the Constitution. How? When? With what? Why?
Well, I think I don't feel concerned at all, George, for the simple fact that it is not a threat of my democracy, my independent rights as an individual. It is not a threat when the United States government decides to stop paying to see if animals can become transgender. It is not a threat to my democracy when I find out that we will no longer send $50 million to Afghanistan for condoms. It's not a threat to my democracy. All the money that we've spent in Ukraine, all the money that we spent on all of these NGOs, none of them, and I mean absolutely none of them, benefited Americans. Now, if there's an American in this world that believes sending $50 million worth of condoms to Afghanistan and testing whether or not animals can become transgender is an important study, an important educational forefront for our human experience in this world, I would love to talk to them.
Yeah, but they are saying now that with stopping this grant and this crazy expenditure, you're basically destroying your international alliances, and this is an politic of isolationism, and you will stay alone, and this is destroying the world order, and this is destroying partnerships and leaving countries to starve. So I don't know. Maybe
you know what I think,
if you stop sending $35 million a year to the Taliban's for irrigation of the poppy fields in which they are basically manufacturing their heroin, maybe some heroin producer or dealer might starve, but I don't think this is bad news, right?
Yeah, I think they deserve to create another agricultural opportunity other than heroin. You know what I mean? I think we could survive without heroin for a couple of days. Especially the Bronx.
Okay, yeah.
We need less heroin in the Bronx, more freedom, more resources, more jobs, and a technological advancement like the world has never seen. And I believe it's going to be coming very soon, George.
How? What happened on the top of New York? So, from my point of view, Eric Adams, somewhere around the elections last year, did some statements which were kind of synchronized with the Republican narrative. Immediately after, he became object of prosecution, and then immediately after Trump came in power, they just basically Pam Bondi took care of this false accusations. She just let him go. So what happened on the top of New York? What do you think about Mayor Adams? And if he decides to run again, and he told in his last interview, I believe he was at Tucker, and he said that he will definitely run again, are you be able to beat him, or is he becoming one of yours, like Tulsi, like RFK, you know? What's happening with this guy? He's a very interesting person.
Well, I love that you asked this question, George, because I don't know if you know, but Eric Adams, when he first came onto the political scene, he ran as a Republican.
What a surprise.
So I think we are very fortunate to have individuals in our society that understand that there was a mission that needs to be accomplished, and he did it. He brought awareness to New York. He brought an understanding that not only does New York need to be protected from the Democrats, but it needs to be protected from the international geopolitical arm that is corruption. And we've seen many individuals do things to try to destroy New York, like bus in hundreds of thousands of migrants and place them in hotels with no opportunity to give them anything to do with their time. Therefore, they destroy the very fabric of the society and the community that they're put into. But when the leadership in the government during the Biden administration saw that Eric Adams was actually interested in defending the welfare of New Yorkers, they immediately put a target on his back.
He said in the said interview, he said that Biden actually stopped answering his phone, and they stopped accepting him in the White House. And he said, multiple times I tried to gather a meeting just to negotiate about some things that we have to do to save the city, and basically they just stopped answering their phones.
Well, it just goes to show you, unless Eric Adams was willing to do the bidding of the Democratic Party, they had no use for him. So they were only using him because he was willing to listen. Not only did they show their hand, they showed the fact that they did not care about New Yorkers. Excuse me. They didn't care about New Yorkers. They didn't care about the welfare of the people that were being affected, the crime that was happening. You know, there have been atrocious crimes that have been happening in New York that could have been stopped with simple measures like ICE getting into the streets and in the city sooner than later. And every single time Eric Adams wanted to make a difference in our city and protect New Yorkers, which is his job to do, he was stopped by the federal government.
And took his credit. Took his credit. He actually tried. He tried.
He did. He tried, and he tried to on multiple occasions. He tried to when he told the federal government, "No, I'm not going to continue to accept migrants in my city when I actually have American citizens that have lived in New York for their entire lives that are not even receiving the resources that we're giving these migrants."
Yep.
And then he did it a second time when he fully and unequivocally denied any and all involvement with making sure that migrants had, illegal migrants had a sanctuary space where they could come and run amok of American cities. And when he put his foot down and he told the federal government that he is America first, he was interested in making America great again, they found no use for him and they decided to prosecute him. The same way they decided to prosecute Donald Trump. And that's another thing that we have to understand. The New York judicial environment is horrendous right now. They're only prosecuting Republicans. They're only prosecuting high-level individuals that refuse to grab the coattails of the Democratic Party and the federal organizations that have been funded by corrupt organizations like USAID. Yep. And now that Donald Trump has dismantled these organizations, not only has the federal government lost power, but now they're being purged from our society, and we will see a new era, a new age of American prosperity. And we can actually thank Eric Adams for standing his ground, keeping his feet 10 toes on the ground, and handling business like a real New Yorker should.
And he got in trouble because saying the truth accidentally aligned with the Republican message.
That's right.
It was only that he said we cannot continue to be a sanctuary city. You know, we just have to stop doing that. And it was only that common sense is equal on both sides. And when he was speaking common sense, naturally, it has aligned with your message, with the Republican message, and he was obviously targeted as a traitor on the next day. But it was common sense.
I'm glad. I'm glad that no one in the Democratic Party felt like they had a supporter in Eric Adams, because no one in the Democratic Party has ever been a supporter of Americans or American families or the nuclear family or American values. How is it that we justify providing all of these resources to illegal immigrants, yet we don't want to provide resources to everyday Americans? It doesn't make any sense. And Eric Adams is an everyday American. Like I said before, when he first started his political career, he was a Republican. I think he's always been a Republican, and he always will be. And when he runs again, I would find it very interesting to see.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. It will be. It will be. I will not be surprised at all if I see him as well on the next gala where we meet.
Exactly.
It's not gonna be a big surprise for me.
Not at all.
But because people are, from time to time, they think that this whole sanctuary city stuff, it's kind of abstract, you know. You don't see the real numbers. You don't know what's actually happening. And just 2 days ago, Doge stopped, cancelled, and got back a FEMA payment to New York hotels for accommodation of illegals at the amount of $60 million. So, I'm asking you this question. If those $60 million per year are given to Bronx instead to the luxury hotels for accommodation of illegals, is there going to be a single child with no access to education if those money was given to you instead of the illegals? A single child.
Absolutely not. If anyone comes to the Bronx and offers to give us $60 million, I would make it my personal lifelong responsibility to make sure that every single child in the Bronx, in New York City, if possible, receives not only the best resources, but the highest level of education that money can buy, because they deserve it. If we know that the Bronx is one of the highest impoverished cities in America, then we need to start pouring into the Bronx. We need to start giving the Bronx the best opportunity that money and technology can buy. And once we do that, we will see an example of what the American and the American experience and the American experiment truly is about. We can take anyone, and this is what America is about. We can take anyone from any culture, any class, any socioeconomic background, and turn them into a successful, God-fearing contributor to society. That is the American experience. That is the American experiment. In America, we don't just serve, there's not just one religion where we serve, there's not just one class of people. We respect, understand, and accept many religions, many cultures in this community, especially in the Bronx. And if anyone decides to bring $60 million to the Bronx, I'll personally make sure that it's allocated properly and that every single child in our Bronx districts will get the best opportunity that they deserve.
I'm sure you will, but look, I'm a Christian. I don't like the word enemy. Let's use the word competitor. I'm sure you know your competitors, your blue competitors, your Democrat competitors. I'm pretty sure you know them very well. And I'm sure that from time to time you are trying to understand them in order to be better than them, to offer the voters, the constituents, a better political decisions. So what can possibly make a normal, intelligent American citizen who suddenly became a person of power send this money not for education, not for medical care, but for a hotel accommodation of illegal immigrants? Those are people who have already broken the law by entering the country illegally. What can possibly make a normal, sane person do that? Please tell me. I really don't get it.
I think it's corruption, George. I think it's corruption. I think it's bribery. I think it's blackmail. I think it's a whole multitude of things. And until we start understanding who are the individuals that are pulling these strings, who are the individuals that are benefiting from these organizations, who's creating these organizations, who's paying them, who's advocating for these organizations to get contracts within our government. Until we start doing that very necessary research, what I believe Doge is doing right now, we're not going to understand. But if you ask me, with the average American, what would cause them to try to corrupt their own society and their own community and country, I would only say something nefarious. Our competitors are no longer an equal force. Our competitors have stooped to a level that Republicans in today's day and age are not interested in stooping to. If they're going to be corrupt, that does not mean that we're going to be corrupt in return. That is not how you do things the right way. So the fact that they utilize corrupt measures and different ways to corrupt individuals to make decisions like this just goes to show you why they do not deserve the opportunities that they have in our local and federal governments. And that's why we need to eradicate them out of our government to make sure that we make this country safer for everyone again.
Hope you do that. You obviously need that, and obviously you need people who can actually do it, not just talk about it. But
that's right.
Let me get back to the constitutional crisis that the left media is blabbing all day long. I've studied US government myself, and I'm sure you very well know that in the American Constitution you have three branches of power: legislative, executive, and judicial. There is no bureaucracy. And now you have this enormous bureaucracy, which obviously is doing anything they want. Those people obviously do everything they want. They don't feel threatened by who's in power at a certain moment. They feel protected by the laws. They feel protected by the rules. They feel protected by their own. And actually, the president, as powerful as he is, has only limited amount of executive power, just to changing here and there the people who are on top. But from then on, you have this enormous network of millions of people, somewhere in the range of 3 or 4 million, nobody knows how much exactly, which are basically doing what they want. Let's say it honestly, doing what they want with your money and with your politics. At the first term, I didn't felt like Trump was strong enough and united enough with the party. He was new in the whole thing to fight bureaucracy. Do you think that bureaucracy should be fought, should be dismantled, should be significantly decreased? And do you think that now Trump being that united with the Republican Party and with the Senate majority and with the Congress majority might actually succeed in that mission?
Absolutely. I think the bureaucracy is getting eradicated as we speak right now, which is why, this morning I drank a full glass of liberal tears, and they were quite delicious, because we now have an opportunity to see not only who are the individuals that were inciting this bureaucratic response and this partisan response in our government, but we're now seeing who funded them. We're seeing who collected payments. We're seeing what countries were receiving the funding. And we're connecting all of those data points with contacts in their phone, with individuals that they were communicating. America was built on relationships with our foreign partners, with allies. And if we're going to continue to thrive as a nation on this geopolitical scale, we must do so with meaningful relationships, not relationships that are built off of receiving funding for condoms in Afghanistan, not relationships that are receiving funding for these nefarious experimental centers, these horrible experimental labs in other countries.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate because not only are these labs creating weapons that could potentially hurt, the entire planet, but they're being funded in countries that are riddled with corruption. So why would America want to have relationships with communities that don't even care for their own local constituents and their own local citizens? And it's a standard that Americans have held dearly to them, even though they're Democratic and federal appointees were not following that standard. Americans have always held the standard that it's our responsibility to take care of our community and the people near us. So if we are going to continue to be leaders on the geopolitical scale, then we need to continue to start fostering relationships that bring us together instead of divide us. If these Democrats feel like they're going to lose relationships because they're no longer going to have money, then they need to revisit those relationships and figure out, why is it that we're sending money to these countries, and what resources are these countries sending to us, so that we can strengthen that relationship for years to come. And if there isn't an answer for that, then now we have a basis of negligence, which definitely needs to be eradicated out of our society.
I'll tell you what this media has achieved. It basically made the world turn on you, because you cannot read about the American dream there, about the freedom, about pursuit of happiness. You cannot read about the country of unlimited possibilities, where everything is possible and where everyone can make it. You are not reading your success stories, your successful entrepreneurs or young leaders or people who are extremely talented, and because they have this huge platform created by other American minds, they are so well known around the world and famous and rich or whatever, let them have it. But you cannot see that in the media. Everything that was pushed was the same old story about LGBTQ and this and that and DAI and racism and minorities and child surgeries and genders and how many are they, 72, 83, 55, whatever. And this made the world turn on you, because people are saying, what, so this is America today? Because not everyone has the has the financial resources to come to the US. They're just reading what's happening, and they're just, oh, so this is the US now. Some gender-affirming cesspool, you know, I don't like that. This is not the America that I used to like once upon a time. You know, from Marlboro Man, you went to the blue-haired, overweight lady, you know, shouting something, and this is people just didn't recognize themselves in this type of American reality, and you can basically easily understand them.
That's right.
So this is what happened with this media money. But look, you're generous people. You paid for Mongolian rappers, you paid for Gaza rappers to create anti-Semitic songs. Basically, good for you, good for you. I like your generosity, you know.
Wow.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now, Adam?
10 years from now, I look to see the Bronx thriving, being one of the most cleanest cities in the world, being one of the most safest places to be in America, and there being a legacy that I hopefully can contribute to of not only sound community, strong environments, strong safety, strong schools, but I see myself supporting my community. I want to see New York and the Bronx become the epicenter of technology, information, and with regards to myself, I look forward to helping this administration continue their efforts. I understand that the work that this administration is currently doing right now is not going to be accomplished in 4 years. So in 10 years, when there's 2 other presidents probably in office by that time, I look forward to helping that administration do the same exact work that I'm trying to do right now. And I plan to do that in a very bigger scale. And I look forward to sharing that process with you all.
Yeah, we'll be able to participate, you know. I will give my microscopic share of support to you guys, to the New York Young Republicans, and to everything you're doing. And thank you very much for your time. We are wishing you all the best. I hopefully will see you at the next gala in December.
Most definitely.
The latest. I most definitely will, if not before that. But anyway, we'll see each other in December. So all the best in the meantime. And I hope not only that you will achieve your dreams, but you will be able to help other people achieve theirs as well.
That's right. That's the goal.
All right. Go for it. Thank you very much, Adam. See you next time.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Have a good one.